All right, here we go. Watch is set at 20 minutes. The topic today is motivation. Someone had said to me, they said, hey, Shank, if everything about weight loss and strength and all that for the average person is so simple, why do people have such a hard time following through on it? It is that. I mean, look, if it really is about the multipliers and all the other videos I made, which were really, really basic, then everyone should be doing it. And the answer is they're not doing it because they lose their motivation to follow through on doing the simple things over and over and over again they need to do in order to lose that first 10% of their body weight. The problem is when you start talking about the topic of motivation, it's so specific to the individual. It would take a normal person like 500 hours of video to explain motivation. For me, it might take the better part of 6 years. I don't have that long. I've got 19 minutes and 3 seconds. So I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? And while I was sitting there thinking about how am I going to sum this up, this very well-meaning guy, he's been listening to this freaking communist who does this like podcast and YouTube page, which always made me laugh that a communist is posting videos on a multi-billion-dollar corporation site using another multi-billion-dollar corporation's equipment in order to talk about how horrible corporations are, but whatever. So the communist comes on here, and he starts talking about how like everything is someone else's fault and this and that, and the only reason why those people have something that you don't have is because they took it from you, blah, 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 blah. And I found him really annoying. Because one point he said that, the guy says, well, what about culture? Someone called up and said, well, I think you're wrong. And I think because culture factors in greatly to where people wind up. And the communist, he goes this really like kind of dismissive communist way because he's got it all figured out. Even though it's never worked anywhere in the world. He said, bro, culture is an effing meme. Meaning that's like some made up thing that people have all agreed upon, but it's really like kind of a big lie. Culture doesn't mean anything. And it really was annoying. And I don't mean like annoying, like I had this kid I trained once, his name's Avi Zinder. And one day Avi informed me, this is years ago, that math and science aren't the same thing. This completely blew my mind. I thought because all the mathematicians and scientists I met were like kind of all socially awkward. No offense, I'm socially awkward myself. I can smell my own kind. I thought they were the same thing. And Avi informed me, no, that math and science are two totally different things. So it was really annoying because now all of a sudden I had to change the way I thought about things. This wasn't like that. It wasn't me being annoyed and becoming smarter. This was like, imagine if someone farted in a crowded elevator. It's like that kind of annoying. You don't get smarter, you don't get better from it, you just get irritated because someone else has a bunch of problems with either digestion or their emotions or their psychology, and now you got to sit there and bathe in it with them. It was that kind of annoying. And it really pissed me off when he said the thing about culture not mattering, because all of a sudden I went off on like this 3-hour mental tangent about all the factors in my life that came down how culture affected me. And I realized in a fitness video that has absolutely no purpose. This isn't Hollywood or professional sports. You're not held captive to listen to my uninformed, stupid political beliefs. You want to know how you can stay more motivated so you can do the simple things you know you need to do to follow through to lose weight. And so I thought of all the things in exercise that came down to culture. And I realized it's a ton. I shouldn't have said all. It's a lot about culture. And I came up with some examples of my own life. And I'll teach you how this all comes down to motivation and Thunder Road in a second. All right? So the first example was Japan versus the United States. I don't mean like Pearl Harbor. It had to do with snacks. I trained this guy once, and I'm going to have to be careful with this because I don't want to give away corporate secrets. But his company manufactured this snack product in Japan. Okay. And originally they made the product, it was like 120 calories. And they put the snack product into taste testing, and people went nuts. They loved it. They're like, we're going to make millions and billions. So they put the product out on the shelf, and no one would buy it. And when they brought the product back in to figure out what the hell happened, they brought the market researchers in. The market researchers said, look, this product you manufactured, it's 120 calories. No one in Japan in their right mind is going to eat this because it's considered gluttonous to have a 120 calorie snack, let alone really having a snack at all. It wasn't part of their culture. Okay? So what they did was they kept the price the same, like any good company. Well, I'm turning into a communist. And they dropped the calories down to 90. Guess what happened? They couldn't keep the product on the shelves. They made millions. So they said, well, we made millions in Japan. Let's go to the United States. They eat more. So they brought the product to the United States. Same product. Taste tested it. Americans went nuts. This is awesome. They put the product out. They said, well, the Americans are a little bigger. Instead of starting at 120 and going down to 90, let's just start at 180. Put it out on the shelves. Couldn't sell a damn bag. Crap, what happened? Pull the market researchers back in. The market researchers tell them, look, people see you're charging X amount of dollars for only 180 calories. They feel like you're being ripped off. No one wants to buy your product no matter how great it may have taste tested. So they jacked the calories up to 240. They dropped the price, couldn't keep it on the shelves. Made a fortune. The point being is, it wasn't the corporation that set the tone. It wasn't them forcing you to do. The market told the corporation what it was willing to buy, and the corporation had to make its choices around what the market said to them. Because no one wanted to buy it. Why? Because the difference in culture. The Americans wanted more food for less money, and the Japanese were embarrassed and ashamed that anyone would eat that much food between meals. That just took the fart-smelling communist and kind of gave him a little problem with his theory that culture doesn't make a difference. The culture is an effing meme, according to him. Right? Another example. I had a client who was in the Army or the Navy or the Marines. I can't remember. Someone, not me. And he was stationed in Samoa. Apparently, it's like a U.S. military base there. And he one time went out with a bunch of like big Samoan guys. Turns out Samoa is like one of the top 3 most overweight countries in the world. And he was sitting down with these guys, and they told him that the Samoan culture had a saying that you don't stop eating when you're full. You stop eating when your jaw is tired. Now, I know all the Dunning-Kruger and all those fancy words you learn on the internet, like, oh, shit, causation and correlation, Well, listen, when a culture says they don't stop eating when they're full, but when their jaw gets tired, and they happen to be the second fattest country in the world, I don't think there's a correlation causation issue here. This isn't like when Detroit, where ice cream sales go up, as do murder rates, because the actual factor is the summer comes along for the reason people kill each other more often. This isn't that nonsense. I think we've actually got a cultural follow-through on this, whatever the word we're looking for. Whereas the Japanese, who have one of the highest life expectancy in the world, who, by the way, also smoke more than Americans, go figure out with that whole rabbit hole we don't want to go down. The Japanese have in their culture a saying that says, you stop when you're 80% full. So again, you could be like, oh, well, that doesn't mean anything. It's kind of a clue. If we have the candlestick maker and we've got the ballroom, we're only one, Miss Scarlet away from figuring out who committed the crime in Clue. Well, when you have one culture who has one of the longest, or maybe the longest life expectancy of any culture in the world, and one of their major theories is you stop eating at 80% full, and you have one of the most overweight cultures in the world, and another one that's knocking on its door, and both of them demand less money, more food, or more food to the point where you can't eat anymore, it's kind of a clue of how much culture factors into this whole thing. I'll give you a third example. How am I doing on time? I got 11 minutes. Good. I'll give you an example of me. Last night, I went out to this phenomenal Italian restaurant. I'll put it in the show notes. It's out in Trenton. Technically, it's like really like kind of Lawrenceville. I don't know what the hell. It's Villa Maria. Villa Rosa. Villa Maria. I get them all confused. I'll put it in the show notes so the restaurant gets proper credit. It's Villa something. And I had one of the most wonderful strombolis I ever had in my life. It was absolutely, it was divine. All right? Quote Anil Kumar. And typically when I had my stromboli, I would come home and I would dominate. I mean, we're talking about leather hoods and harnesses, dominate 2 pints of ice cream. Because I had the salty and savory and the fatty with the stromboli, and then usually the coup de grace, the stone cold stunner, the people's elbow, the Diamond Dallas Page diamond cutter, the Hogan big leg off the ropes, Ric Flair figure 4 leg lock, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to do a woo, by the way. I don't have time for wooing. I usually would have that ice cream. 2 pints, Halo Farms, chocolate chip, Cookie dough. Dump those sons of bitches in the bowl, 10 minutes, let it soften, and then every spoonful is a little cookie dough, a little chocolate chip. And I would dominate that, no problem. Well, guess what? That was 220-pound Shank. Do you know what 200-pound Shank did when he got home? He went into the refrigerator, he got his sweet, but let me show you. Here, hold on, since this is all done live. He went in the refrigerator, and he got this. This is a vanilla protein. It's called Ratio Protein. It's got 25 grams in it. You can get this at ShopRite and Target, wee. It's only got, let's see that, 170 calories in it, 25 grams of protein. I really don't know what I'm doing here. This is awful. I'll put it in the show notes. You guys are going to wind up having a seizure just trying to read this. 3 grams of sugar, 25 grams of protein, 170 calories. All right, it's not egg whites and broccoli, but it's a hell of a lot less than 2 pints of ice cream, which was my old culture, my 220-pound culture, versus my 200-pound culture, which comes home and eats the yogurt. Might have this section too. All right. Then here's another aspect of my culture that changed. When I woke up the next morning, I weighed 3 pounds more. Now the Stromboli didn't weigh 3 pounds, but it had enough sodium in it that probably helped me retain every ounce of water that I drank, right? The old me would have been like, oh my God, I weighed 3 pounds more. Oh my God, I gained 3 pounds. And then I'd go off, I'd get all upset, and then I'd have to medicate the upsetness with more food. Whereas this me said, wait a second, there's no way that I gained 3 pounds in one meal. That meant if I gained 3 pounds, it would have meant I had to be in a 10,500 calorie surplus above what I burned off during the day to gain 3 pounds of fat. The new me said, there's no way that would happen. So I'm just retaining a little water. Maybe I got some Stromboli still floating around in my belly. I didn't gain 3 pounds, so there's no reason to get crazy and upset and then have to medicate that with food. There's no reason to go off. The old me would be like, well, then I got to skip 3 or 4 meals because I gained 3 pounds. No, I just went right back to my normal schedule and understood that if I keep eating my normal diet, within about a week or so, that weight will be gone. And I still have the memory of eating the Stromboli. No one can take that away from me. But that was the 220-pound me who was way more stressed out about everything versus the 200-pound me who had his Stromboli, came home, had his high-protein yogurt, waiting in the next morning, was heavy, and said, you know what? Big deal. I'm going to have my hash browns and egg whites, my protein shakes, my snack, blah, blah, blah. You guys have seen what I eat. There's videos all over the place. That's the new me, the 200-pound culture of me. I said enough times. Now you may say, well, what the hell does this have to do with motivation? And what the hell is he doing with Thunder Road here? Well, I'll tell you. When you have the right culture, there's my shadow, sorry. When you have the right culture, this is like Thunder Road, all right? Remember Thunder Road with Crater Face? The rules are there ain't no rules. Well, it's the same thing. When you're on the right diet, when you're in the right culture, and by the way, in the United States, you better create your own dietary culture because it ain't going to create it for you. I just said ain't twice in about a 2-minute period. That is the most grammatically incorrect thing ever. But whatever. The secret to weight loss motivation is to not have weight loss motivation, but to set up for yourself, if your culture that you live in is not going to do it, to set up for yourself a way of living and a way of eating, habits and methods, so you don't have to go down 6 minutes, the motivation road. That's where people screw this up. When people say to me, you know, well, it's all 90% diet, it's like, no, it's 0% diet because you should never have to think about it. I'm not saying you're like a lunatic like me and you eat the same 3 things over and over again, but you should have a certain lineup, right? Even baseball teams only have 5 starting pitchers. Well, they may not much longer, but you get the point. You have certain habits, certain things you do, certain places you go, certain places you don't go. When you have the Stromboli, you know what you have when you get home. You have thin habits, you have not so thin habits. That's the key to staying motivated, is to never have to dig into the motivation. I am one of the least motivated people you could possibly imagine when it comes to diet. There's going to be a big breakthrough, by the way, in my videos. I'm actually starting a separate kind of video thing where it's all about food, dogs, and movies. We'll get more into that in the middle of the week once my gift from the Neil Kumar Foundation gets here. But this is the big takeaway after all that ranting for 15 minutes. The key to weight loss motivation is to not have to be motivated in the first place. What you need to do is set up a series of repeatable behaviors. You have to get your own high protein yogurt. You have to get your own hash browns and egg whites for breakfast. You have to get your own broccoli and potato, olive oil and salt mash for lunch. You have to get your own things that you rely on day in, day out that you don't even think about. Because the more you think about your diet, the more it becomes one more pile of crap on all the stuff you have to think about in the first place. It's going to backfire on you. This isn't scripted, so please excuse me if I just go off on these crazy rants. But when I know, I see a lot of the overweight people, they come in, I'll hear them talk to me, and they'll say, how I know they're going to fail on their diet, and I warn them about this, is when they get all jumpy and excited about what they're doing. They're as anxious about food when they're overeating as when they're undereating, and that never works out. The over-anxiousness is always going to blow up in your face. You're like, I eat this, that's good, right? Yeah, that's good. And I eat this, and I eat that. And oh, I'm really being healthy now. And I went for this walk. And it's like, you made such a big deal about going on a walk. And that's great that you're walking. I don't want to be like the mad dad here. But it's got to become something like, you don't go, I brushed my teeth today. It's like, no, you just do it. I put my seatbelt on today. That literally is what exercise is. Ultimately, it becomes something that's part of you, not something you have to be motivated to do. I don't go take my seatbelt when I get in the car and go, all right, Cenk, you got this, baby. Maybe go inside, watch a little Rocky Ford training montage, and then you get that seatbelt on you, or Ford versus Ferrari, right? It's all about habits and creating your culture so that you don't think about it. So that's part of you. It's part of what you do. I think there's more to this topic, but again, I've got to be careful that I don't go off on these wacky rants that I go on. But the comments, he really annoyed me when he said that. Because I know in your own life, don't even think about exercise and diet. Think about everything you've ever done in your life and how it's never been just about you, but also about the people that surround you and help you get to where you are. Culture is huge. It's a massive thing. Expectations are huge. And yeah, we don't all end up in the same place. Anyone who's worked in the world of exercise and diet and fitness who's watches, any trainers watches, will tell you the concept of equity, and excuse my language here, the concept of equity, especially when it comes to diet and exercise and bodies, is complete bullshit. Complete bullshit. Human beings' bodies respond to jockeys are not short because they rode horses, and basketball players in the NBA aren't tall because they bounced basketballs. They had a certain predisposition to those positions that they used hard work over time, and not everyone even winds up at that level. So yes, there are certain inherent things, certain inherent abilities that people wind up in different spots, but the bottom line is everyone has a chance to improve. Everyone has a chance to lose weight. Everyone has a chance to get rid of that first 10%, which makes the big difference in your health and your wellness and your function. You just got to follow the simple formulas that I've already given you them. I've given you the multipliers. I've told you roundabout what I've seen people succeed with over time. I've talked about the importance of maintenance so you come up for air. Consider that part of your culture. Right? The Japanese have the eating until 80% full. You have the shank until 10% maintenance thing. But this isn't even mine. This is something I observed other people do. So I don't know why I got into a profanity-laced tirade about equity. I don't know why. Again, this is when things go off the rails, when I start getting all personal with this stuff. Let's stick with exercise. One more time. The key to being motivated is to have certain habits. Because I'll tell you what, you take any exercise nut, any personal trainer, any fitness person, and you take them, I'm promising you, I don't know what the psychological, I imagine got physics, I don't know what the psychological annals will tell us about this, all the reams of research. I'm telling you what I've experienced in my life. You take one of us out of our habit stream and we break down like a 3-year-old baby who didn't get the piece of candy they wanted from the checkout aisle at the grocery store. We break down, which is why you always see us with our goddamn coolers and our goddamn Tupperware and our goddamn protein shakers and our goddamn bucket or bottles of water. Because we understand, at least in this aspect of our life, we screw up everything else. We're also working in the gym for a living. But we understand in this aspect of our lives how important habit and routine are and how little you should be thinking about this stuff once you get that habit and routine in place. Because the second you take someone out of their habit and routine, They are no more motivated. They are no more better. Yeah, okay, some people get less hungry on a diet than others. But, okay, I need 10. I know I promised 20 minutes. Just give me a couple extra seconds here. Again, the second you take someone out of the routine, they're as helpless as anybody else in this field. So keep that in mind. Yes, we all wind up at different places, but we all have the ability to improve. The pathway is very simple. It's in all my other videos of what I've seen work in the past. And I've said to you before, if it doesn't work for you, then fantastic. Find something that does. I'm trying to start a religion here. And understand, again, one last time, the key to motivation is not having motivation, not having to need to have the motivation. It's about habits and setting up systems that work for you. That's it. Thank you and goodbye. I didn't even go over 20 minutes. It's 20:46, so ha ha.